Welcome to the Binge Breakers podcast. I'm Jacqueline. I am here to teach you how I overcame bulimia and my binge eating disorder, and how you can too. Through simple steps of mind management, repairing your relationship with yourself, understanding your habits, and intuitive eating.
Disclaimer. This recording is not intended to be utilized as medical advice or a medical diagnosis. If you think you're in need of medical attention or treatment, please seek it immediately. This recording will also contain sensitive subjects such as binging and purging, weight, and depression. Please listen at your own discretion and do what you think is best for you.
Thank you for meeting with me. I know you don't really know as much about me or whatever, but I've heard a lot of your podcasts. I think that you are doing a fabulous job. I first found you in the life coach school with Brooke, and
Okay.
I think you were on one of the calls inside of Scholars, and you just got on and started talking about style, and I was like, this girl's got a point and she's quite hilarious as well. And then I saw you again on her podcast, and then I listened to your interview with Renee Sager as well.
Okay.
Recently. And I was like, I
Yeah.
gotta
Love
have her
Renee.
on.
She's a crack up. Renee is a total crack up. So yeah, no, I'm glad we were able to do this. And I was stalking you, of course, on the socials and the internet just to see what you had
Yeah.
produced and watching your IGTV videos. I was like, okay, this is going to be really good conversation. Yeah.
I guess let's start right off the bat. First of all, because we're already recording and everything, obviously brought you on. This is Judith. Well, how do you pronounce your last name? Is it Gaton? Is that
Yeah,
correct?
Gaton. Yeah, you got it.
Yeah. All right. Judith Gaton. And you're obviously a style coach on your website, a style coach for curvy women, which I think is fabulous. And you teach people how important style is and how that affects your confidence and other things. And then also your podcast host as well. But I wanted to ask, have you ever worked with anyone that struggles with the eating disorders, just out of curiosity?
So a lot of ladies come to me in different stages. So typically, if someone is not in recovery from an eating disorder, I will advise them to go get help with someone who specializes in eating disorders. I stay in my lane, but also a lot of the work I do with my clients involves the mirror sometimes. So if I'm working with someone and then I start to realize maybe they're having a little bit of body dysmorphia or they're in recovery and they had not previously disclosed it, then we change the route we take to kind of accommodate the fact that we probably shouldn't spend so much time in front of the mirror if someone has a past history of eating disorder. So just depending on where the client comes to me, but typically if they present with, I do have an eating disorder, I'm in recovery, I find out how far along in recovery they are, and then I'll send them to additional resources and places they can go to get help. Because that is its own specialized thing, right? There's coaches like you, thank God, who specialize in this field and have expertise here because it is its own thing. And it's the words we use in for weight loss are not going to apply to your lovely clients. And you have to be so careful with the messages we send them and how we talk to them. So
No, yeah, you're right. And still, of course, there's always a gray area in coaching too, where it's still even in eating disorder territory. I have to be careful about who I work with because sometimes they need more than what coaching can provide as well. There's lots of things in there. But can I ask, I want to also talk about your background because I think that's really interesting. I know a few things about that. But you mentioned mirror work. What do you do with someone? I know you have people stand in front of the mirror and work on that. And what is that about? Can you just explain that to me?
Yeah, no, that's a great question. Great follow-up. So, when they first come into my program, they spend a week sending pictures of themselves. So they snap a selfie of their outfit and they send it to me every day for the first week that we spend together. We call it Awareness Week, just so we can figure out what thoughts they think about themselves, how they feel about themselves. So it's like a great thought finding exercise. It's sort of the first layer of mirror work. I have some clients who ignore themselves, literally have probably not spent any time in front of the mirror in months, weeks, some of them even years. They completely ignore themselves. They get ready almost with a glance and then they're out the door. So it really is a chance for them to pay attention to themselves again and figure out what's going on with their relationship with themselves. So the mirror is a great way to do that. However, if you have a history of disordered eating, and you've spent any time with any sort of picking behaviors, whether it's pulling out your hair, picking at your skin, being in front of the mirror for a long period of time is actually the opposite of what we want to do for you. So there's a different modality that I use if I notice any of those kind of behaviors or like severe trepidation on the part of my client to take a selfie, or to stand in front of the mirror for a long time. Then we go with a different modality, and I'll work with them on identifying their feelings about
Mhm.
themselves in a different way that doesn't involve the mirror. But if they're game and they're open to it and we're not going to trigger anything, then yeah, we totally start with mirror work because I think it can be really powerful.
Yeah, I agree. And I think when you said you just take a picture of yourself and what you're wearing and send it to you for a week, I just was like, oh my God, I would I would not be able to do that. I mean, like I would obviously wouldn't trigger anything, but I would just be like feel a little bit bad about some of the outfits I was wearing, which I'm sure when people do that, they're like, oh, this is what I'm wearing today. Okay. And you send the picture along. Like you said, awareness week, it really makes you think about what you're dressing yourself in.
Yeah, because I'm thinking about there's like a few things going on. There's one thing is when you look at yourself in the mirror and you kind of go about your day. Another thing is when you snap a selfie and you have that level of objectivity between yourself and the selfie, and then you're like, oh, this is what's going on for me. And obviously,
Hmm.
we're taking a three-dimensional figure and we're flattening it down to 2D, so there's all kinds of things there. And then, too, the fact that you think someone else is going to potentially judge this picture, which I'm not because I love my
Yeah.
clients so fiercely, but they think I'm going to judge them. So all their own self judgment will come up as part of like, well, what is Miss J going to say? And then it's like,
Hmm.
okay, these are excellent thought finders. This is actually what you're thinking, it has nothing to do with me. Although I've had a few who've confessed like in week 2, and then we have to repeat the process, which is so fun. They're like, I dressed up all of week 1.
Of
It's not
course. Yeah.
actually how I dress. And I just think it's so funny. I'm like, okay, well, let's do this again. But can you not pretend? Like, I want you to see how you really show up. It has nothing to do with my thoughts about it. You need to see
Hmm.
you as you really are. And it's just a really powerful exercise. It's super funny, though, when they like confess, like, okay, I got dressed up for you. I'm like, it's not for
Hmm.
me. It was never for me. That's the point of this. It was always for you.
Yeah. I
So,
would
yeah.
totally, now that I think of it, if I had to do it, I would probably do that. I'd probably have the urge to do it. And then I'd be like, maybe on day one. And then the second day I'd be too lazy and I would do that. But it's funny you said people like ignore them because a lot of my clients will also just kind of ignore the mirror or they'll be too obsessed with it. But when you ignore it, it depends on where you're at and what's going on for you. But I find that that can sometimes make the problem worse because you're not even used to what you're looking at or what you look like. And so it's like a shock whenever you see yourself sometimes.
Yeah. And I think if it's not going to trigger any behaviors that you're working on eliminating, I'll couch it that way, then yeah, I think it is a pretty powerful tool because we spend so much of our lives in our heads, especially if you're recovering from any type of disordered eating or picking behavior or anything like that. Like, you spend so much time in your head that sometimes it is helpful to see what you look like. For a lot of my clients who've gained a lot of weight and they have a lot of shame around their size, they start to ignore themselves, and then they see a picture that a family member posted on Facebook or on Instagram. They were tagged in something, and like the shock and dismay, it's like, I didn't realize I was that big. And it's like, well, when was the last time you actually looked at yourself? Like, really
Hmm.
looked at yourself? I have some clients who don't have any full length mirrors in their house. It's just like they can see their
Right.
face only, or they see themselves in Zoom screens all the time. And it's like, well, there's a whole other half of you that exists
Hmm.
that you may not be familiar with, and not for the sake of we have to slim it down, wear Spanx, smooth it out, or anything like that. Just this is you. This is where you're living while you're here on planet Earth. Might as well get acquainted
Right.
with your actual home that you happen to be living in. So yeah, it's pretty powerful when you start to like spend enough time so that you're not a shock to yourself, you're not a surprise to yourself. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, what you just said about like this is the home that you're living in on this earth. And I'm all about like it's a little different because in eating disorders there's controversy around this, but I do believe like you can change your body if you want and in a very like healthy, sustainable way. It's got to be careful. But like at any size, that is your home. You're a freaking human being. And people treat themselves if they're ashamed of their body anyway. They treat themselves so terribly and try to like hide themselves away. And it just seems like such a travesty because it's the body you're experiencing, it's where you're here with it. So it seems like you're kind of just limiting yourself in so many ways. When it comes to, obviously you're a style coach for curvy women, when it comes to helping those clients of yours who feel a lot of shame about the size that they're at, how do you even begin to tackle them feeling confident in their bodies as it is?
Yeah, so there's like a myriad of ways, but the like sort of typical way is we just start to pay attention to the body. So Awareness Week is a great opportunity to do that. Another thing we'll do is just like being aware, and suddenly when you start taking pictures of yourself, you're aware of things that don't fit well. Like again,
Mm,
like we're just raising your awareness. So one of the first things we do is, because a lot of people are attached to the size of the tag, right? What's the number on that tag? What does the tag size say? And what does
mm-hmm.
that make it, what am I making it mean about me and my worth and my value? So a lot of times, like, people are squeezing themselves into things that are just really too small. So
Mm-hmm.
part of Awareness Week is not just like, what are your thoughts and feelings about yourself? Like, what are the physical sensations you're having in your body wearing clothes that are too tight? Suddenly your
Right.
awareness is really raised and you're like, oh, okay, that keeps pinching me. I have to rub my belly at night. My, belly hurts. This pair of pants are up my crotch all day, or whatever the case is,
Mm-hmm.
right? Like wedgie monsters, all the things that you experience when your clothes are
Wedgie
too
monsters.
tight. Like it's so uncomfortable, and suddenly like you can't ignore it.
Mm-hmm.
So
Yeah.
then once we get like, okay, here's the physical distractions, physical discomforts I've been living with, and all my janky ass thoughts about myself and these feelings about myself, it's almost like that discontent is like the invitation to make the change. But we ignore ourselves for so long, we don't even realize the level of discontent and discomfort we've been sort of putting up with. So,
Mm-hmm.
one of the first things we have to do is kind of look around with as objective an eye as you can and say, like, this is just not working for me anymore. Especially if you have shame around a tag size or the size and shape you are, like, those things that you've been putting up with because you're so ashamed of the number, like almost become like irrelevant. It's like, get me out of these pants, get me out of these clothes that
Mm-hmm.
don't fit.
Yeah.
So we can take that discontent as an invitation to like make some changes and
Yeah.
accept where you are right now, where physical comfort becomes like the norm. And then the next layer is like, well, how do you want to dress? Like,
Mm.
you should be
Yeah.
comfortable. Let's accept that as the minimum requirement. And like, well, then the next question is like, how do you want to show up? What do you want to wear?
Well, and not feeling comfortable makes you feel terrible. Like it just puts you in a bad
100%.
mood. You mentioned something a while ago that stuck with me, and that's something I want to bring up is that being like having clothes that don't fit you properly and wearing things that are just a little too small or kind of old or whatever, it's a distraction, really. It just is like something going on in the background, and you have to think about it instead of thinking about other awesome things instead.
Yeah. And I think like every woman can relate to this. Like, and it doesn't have to be clothing, like just shoes. I think we all can universally understand like wearing shoes that are too small, but you're like
Yep.
having to walk like a certain distance and then you're meeting other humans. So it's like, okay, all right, I'm gonna do it. I'm gonna put up with it. Beauty is pain, or whatever we tell ourselves, right?
Mm-hmm.
And the entire function, social interaction, interview, whatever it may be, all we can think about is that horrible pulsating pain that is coming from our
Yeah.
feet, right? So, like, I mean, obviously, it's like a pretty extreme example, but we all have some version of this. Whether it's the wedgie, the bra that's too tight, the pants that if you sit just that right way, they might split, or they're really going to dig into your stomach, so your
Yeah.
stomach goes numb. Like, all of us have these experiences, like, and it's that low level of hum, that pulsating little pain sensation, right? And like, why
And
would
you
we ignore
associate
that?
that with your body, really the clothes are the problem. But you're like,
Yes,
if my
yes.
body were smaller, and I had one person tell me, she's a really sweet client. She was saying, and I think in her consult, that she's like, I just want to be able to wear the shorts, like the shorts I wore a while ago, right? That are a few sizes smaller. She cannot fit into right now. And she's like, it would just be easy if I could lose the 10 pounds to get into those shorts. And I was like, it would just be easier to buy new shorts for right now. You can keep those shorts, but like what you're saying doesn't make any sense, you know?
Yeah. Yeah, no, it's like I think it's like, well, if I cut off my arm, it'd be so much easier. And it's like, No, we're
Yeah.
not like removing appendages. We just go buy new clothes. Like this is not
Mm-hmm.
this. Why is that the thing? But I think we've all been socialized and programmed to think that that's what we're supposed to do. We're supposed
Right.
to like conform our bodies, squish our bodies, remove stuff off of our bodies in order to fit into clothes. And it's the opposite. The clothes are supposed to conform to us. We don't have to do a
Yeah.
damn thing.
Well, do you ever get this objection? I think it's more so people know that it's easier, but the idea of getting new clothes that are a size up, that or just whatever size there are, people think that's like giving up, or
Yeah.
it's not, it's giving in.
Yeah, I get that a lot. I get that a lot. So, what I often tell those people is like squishing yourself, causing like unnecessary pain, like all of those things are not going to get you to that goal weight, whatever that means to you.
Mm-hmm.
So, like, causing yourself actual physical pain and then shaming yourself and belittling yourself is never going to produce the result of sustainable, lasting weight loss, whatever that means to that particular
Right.
person, right? Like, we can't shame ourselves into sustainable weight loss and healthy eating practices. Like, we can't belittle ourselves, self deprecate. I think you had an episode recently, or you did an IGTV about self deprecation. Like it's not going to get us the lasting result that we want.
No.
Um, it's a signal to us that we have some thought work to do, perhaps, but it's not going to get us like goal weight results. So I just would say to all those people, like, there's a different way that's more sustainable. You can do this in a loving way. You can do this in a kind way,
Mm-hmm.
and it doesn't have to be what you were taught. It totally doesn't have to be the what you were taught. And like, just trust me on this one because all those times you've attempted before didn't work. So maybe there's a different way this time. And whether you decide to lose weight or not will be completely up to you. But we can at least dress the body you're in right now, make you physically comfortable, and then free you up to go make some decisions.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Well, and what you're saying there about dressing in a way that you're physically comfortable, well, I guess like you should explain it since you're the expert. Like, how does that actually help you?
Yeah, so I mean, think about the relief that you feel when you get home and you fling your bra off because it's too tight or too big and you've been messing with it all day.
Mm-hmm.
Right? Like we can all relate to that. The shoes that you fling off because they were too tight and you just are so relieved. Taking off those jeans and feeling that wash of relief when your belly is released, right? Or the lovely sensation when you take off those too tight pairs of Spanx, the
Mm-hmm.
2 or 3 or 4 you happen to be wearing. Like the
Oh my
relief that
goodness.
you feel, like you can live in that relief all the time. And that low hum of like pain that's going off all the time, like we quiet that and we're not ignoring it anymore. So then you free up actual like brain space to go focus on other things. There's also like hygienic things that are helpful when you're wearing clothes that actually fit you and things that are not too tight.
Mm-hmm.
I will leave that all to your imagination. And then there's like, the thing of confidence. It's hard to feel confident when you're wearing clothes that don't fit you.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Well, it's a big reminder that they don't fit and that your body's not shaping into this, and it makes you feel anything but confident for sure.
Right. Exactly. So it's like these little things that are energy sucks that are really little reminders of, whatever you're feeling ashamed about on your body. So if we just put clothes on you, they don't have to be fancy, y'all. They could just be clothes that fit you. We can quiet that part of your brain down. It's no longer in pain. It's no longer in fight or flight or freeze, right? And it's finally able to like have a little bit of extra space to make some decisions from a place where it's not in pain
Hmm.
and it's not being tormented by its own thoughts. It's like
Yeah.
telling someone that we have been prodding and poking all day long, all day long. We're prodding and poking and we're like, make a decision, make a decision, make a decision. Like,
Right.
what kind of decisions are we going to get out of that human when we've been messing with them all day? Same
Hmm.
applies to your clothes. You've been messing with yourself all day and you think you're going to have a clear head to make awesome decisions and go create wonderful things. Probably not. But if we put clothes on you that are at least comfortable, we free up that part of your brain and you're not part of the poking and prodding of your own self. Well, there's external
Mm-hmm.
sources you might have to deal with, but at least we eliminate you and your janky clothes from the equation.
Yeah, you're taking care of what you can control. You know, you can't
Exactly.
change the universe, but clothes are something you generally can control. And I like that they don't have to be like you said something about the first thing that usually changes the underwear for people. That's like the
Yes.
basics. And I actually just ordered some new underwear. And I was like, I know, I
Yay!
was like going through all of my, I think my boyfriend was doing the laundry and he's like, why do you even like some of this underwear? So I was like, no, I should change it. And I got myself like, I got them like a little bit larger because I can't stand like tight clothing that much. And it's just the best thing ever. It fits me so well. And you're right. It just makes you feel 10 times better. And it's just a simple change of having well fitted underwear.
Yeah, it's such a small investment, right? Like, it's a
Hmm.
small monetary investment depending on the undergarments you choose to select, but like,
Sure. Yeah.
even a fresh pack of Hanes that happens to fit you is better than like lacy under things that are crawling up your ass all day. Like, let's just be
Hmm.
real.
Yeah.
So, like, it could be low cost, like, threshold in terms of investing. The return on that investment is just crazy town in terms of feeling better, setting it and forgetting it so we're freeing up brain space. But also think of literally, y'all, the time that you amount of times you wear a pair of underwear. For some of us, it's
Mhm.
insane. Like, I had a challenge recently, and one of the fun questions I asked in there was like, tell the truth, shame the devil. How old is your oldest piece of underwear? And some of those, like, people were cracking me up. And I mean, for some, it was like 2 decades, right? So, like,
Oh my
we get a
goodness.
ton of like cost per use on a pair of underwear is probably
Hmm.
like 0.00000 like 1 cent. So, like, the return on investment monetarily in terms of feeling better and just like freeing up space, like, y'all just throw out them janky undies. Like,
When you said that, I was like, oh my God, I still have some underwear from high school. Totally do. It was just like 2013. I'm like, oh God, you know, yeah.
I think all of us, right? So take a cue
Hmm.
from Judith and Jacqueline, like, or Jacqueline. Are you Jacqueline? I don't know. My sister's
Jacqueline,
Jacqueline.
yeah. Hmm.
Jacqueline. Okay. Yes. Take a cue from us. Clean out your underwear drawer, please. Do yourself
Hmm.
that beautiful favor. And again, doesn't have to be fancy, just has to fit you.
Yeah, absolutely. And it doesn't, I like that it doesn't have to be fancy. Like a lot of people are like, that's expensive. And you can find good deals. Even a pack of Hanes like will do. Just
Yeah.
something. And like, okay, when you invest in clothing also, what do you think that says? Like, what do you think your thoughts are thinking about you when you're saying, hey, I'm buying this for you? I feel like it provokes really good thoughts about your self-worth.
Yeah, I think it can. So, for our non-shopaholic friends who are getting little
Oh.
dopamine rushes from buying clothes, really, I think it just, and here, again, it doesn't have to be expensive clothes. It's just taking the time out to think bigger picture. How do I want to show up in the world? How do I want to show
Mhm.
up for this season of life? How do I want to show up for this role that I happen to be playing? How do I want to show up for this important event? How do I want to show up just for me when I'm lounging around my house?
Mhm.
Like, I have some clients, we spend our, our time together, and all we do is we up level their loungewear and their PJs, because
Yeah. Mhm.
that's where they were actually spending a lot of their at home time. So it's like, well, let's make that the best experience ever, right? So we could up level even just your PJs and your jammies, and the rest of your outward facing clothes could be whatever they are. Like, the beautiful thing is it really stops and allows you to like decide for yourself what you think is going to be stylish, what you want to wear closest to your heart on your body. Like,
Mhm.
this is all about like developing that relationship with yourself. So it is an investment really in a bigger picture version of you. Now, we
Mhm.
could swap out, like, obviously financial concerns for the bigger picture, because we're all humans having a human experience. So sometimes we're not going to be able to buy the absolutely fabulous, all satin, whatever the thing is.
Mhm.
Sometimes we might want to make that investment. Really, it's just the process of taking the time to ask yourself, what do I want and how do I want to show up? I think that's really the beautiful thing that clothes allows us to do in a way that we're not always thoughtful about in other areas of our life. So if we can practice that meta skill, even just with our clothes, with our panties, with our bras, with our underthings, if we can practice that meta skill of like, what do I want? How do I want to show up? We can start to apply that
Hmm.
everywhere else. So it gets really exciting when you've got that down and you've practiced that skill there where you can take it. So I think that's the beautiful thing about clothes in terms of thinking them like an investment. Then we have this bigger picture way that we can apply all those tools.
Yeah, it absolutely translates, and it is like the way you're showing up in the world, and making those decisions. They seem small, but little by little, it's like you're telling yourself what you want and building your style. Which brings me to another question. I have like so many things I want to ask you. So,
Yeah,
and
yeah,
like I
no
feel bad
worries.
because I haven't even asked you about like your for those you guys that don't know, like she has a law degree and all this other stuff, and then went into fashion. Like I feel like we're missing a lot of the loveliness that is Judith. But I was going to ask you about like building one style and how do you even go about doing that? Like
Yeah,
not just
so
the obviously pick comfortable clothes, but
comfortable
yeah.
clothes, right? That's like the first threshold. And then the next
Mhm.
threshold is what you define as your style. So one of the fun things to think about is fashion's external. It's what's happening out there in the universe. Style is personal to you. So it means it's going to be defined by you in a completely different way than the person sitting next to you. So
Hmm.
I like to think of style as it's the outward reflection of your thoughts and feelings about yourself. So we can put style as like these words strung together equal style in my brain. When I think about these things, I feel stylish. So we can play with the concept in two different ways as a thought experiment and also like an emotional experiment. What emotions can I conjure up by the things I decide to wear and what I choose to think about those things? Or what do I deliberately want to think in order to create a feeling that I like? So, style is like this really fun place to play as like a thought and an emotion experiment, which means it's
Hmm.
personal. So the feelings I want to conjure up in my body that I equate to stylishness, for me, it's like I want to feel elegant. I want to feel a little taller. When I'm feeling stylish, like I will stand straighter. That's just how my body works. I'm like, ooh, I'm
Hmm.
feeling good. My head will be a little taller. I'll feel expansive, but I also feel really calm. That's my version of stylish. I kind of a nervous personality in general. So when I'm feeling my most stylish, I suddenly feel a little calmer. For some of my clients, though, who are, let's say, sort of more calm naturally, stylish to them is like feeling sassy, feeling lit up, a lot more
Hmm.
energy, right? So
Yeah.
different for every single person. So, for the first area in terms of defining your own personal style, is to really kind of think about that as there's fashion happening outside of me. So there's trends, magazines, advertisements, what my best friend happens to be wearing. And then there's style, which is personal, which is like, how do I want to think about myself? How do I want to feel about myself? How do I want to show up in the world?
Hmm. I
Like
love that.
answering those questions for yourself is a great way to tap into what you are going to define as your personal style. And it's going to be different for every single person, which gets really juicy and fun.
Yeah, absolutely. Like how many of us have thought when we're shopping online, how do I want to feel? Just that question alone. And what do I want to think when I'm wearing this and what do I want it to provoke? That's such a good way to go about it. I'm just being honest here. Like I was just looking at clothes the other day and like debating whether or not to get them because I have trouble buying stuff for myself most of the time. But I was like, I think I'll just look really good in that. And it'd be so much cooler to think about like how will I feel wearing those? Why do I want that?
Yes.
And like what do I want to think about while I'm wearing it? It's just lovely. And it's
Yeah,
much
or even
more,
reverse that a little bit. Like, what do I want to feel like? And then the clothes have to meet that requirement.
yeah, exactly. Well, I was just gonna say, like, you'd be much more careful to think about how you decided what you put into your wardrobe. Because some people can have the tendency to like just buy clothes they don't really absolutely love, things like that, or they'll buy some. I feel like if you're making it from that decision standpoint, you're going to be more careful and select pieces that truly, truly fit you and keep them for longer as well.
Yeah, 100%. And then this
Mhm.
whole like, what do I buy? I don't know what to buy. I don't know what to wear. Like that sort of falls into the background because you have such a clear vision of how you want to feel that anything that just doesn't meet that requirement, whatever those are for you, it's just so easy to say no to them. Even if they're on sale, like
Yeah.
it gets easier
Hmm.
to say no. Yeah.
Yeah, I remember. So, like, fitness brands do this all the time. They're like, it's a launch and like it's going to be gone, and you can only shop in like 5 minutes or everything's going to be gone. I hate those types of things, the urgency that you feel. And it's like, why? I remember stopping that a while ago. I was like, I do not want to feel pressured into a clothing decision. If they do not have it, oh well. But I was like, I was also buying it because it was on sale, and it's like, I don't even really love it. Why am I doing this? It's not, there's no point to it.
Yeah, and the funny thing is like when you are shopping with a little more intention, like this is how I want to feel this season, this is, how I want to show up this season, your shopping list gets a lot smaller, it's a lot more well defined. So
Hmm.
cool if you go out and you happen to find, for example, I have a client who's really wants some like gray raw hem jeans right now. We're on the hunt. And I'm like, great. Like that gives us a very specific place to go. If we happen to find them on sale, that's amazing. But we're not going with the like goal of buying 3 pairs of jeans. No, we have
Hmm.
one very specific kind of jean in mind that we're going on the hunt for. If it's on sale, great. If it's not, that's okay because we're only buying this one. We're not trying to buy in multiples and duplicates. I think a lot of people wait to call it like ass on fire, hair on fire shopping. It's like
Yeah.
absolutely nothing fits. Your favorite stuff all has holes. You have an important thing coming up, and now you have to go to the store and you fucking hate shopping and your
Hmm.
ass is on fire, your hair is on fire, and that's the attitude you're going shopping in. Like, of course, the first thing on sale that you see, you're going to buy it, even though you secretly hate it, and take it home because you want to like turn that fire that you feel down, right? Like,
Yeah.
no more shopping like that. If we start to do it with a little more intention, we have really small, what I call intelligent shopping lists. We're gonna have a much better experience
Hmm.
while shopping. No more ass on fire shopping. That's the worst.
Intelligent shopping list too. And you're right. Like when you're carrying that sale item home too, you're not going to wear it that often. It's going to end up in the back of your closet. It's just not going to serve any purpose.
Yeah, yeah. Other than
Mhm.
to check the box that you got the thing for wherever you needed it for that moment.
Right. And then
Yeah.
it's going in the bottom of the drawer. So I wanted to ask you, kind of shifting gears here. I don't know if you've encountered this, but I have some clients who, again, they have struggles with their body image, right? And so they wear like a lot of baggy clothes because they're self-conscious about it. And those baggy clothes really become their armor in a way. And they kind of feel scared to branch out and things like that. Have you ever worked with anyone like that?
Yes, yes. So, a few things. Number one, if you're using clothing like a body armor, like if you suffered some trauma in the past or have a history of seeing your body other than it actually is when you look in the mirror, what we
Hmm.
want to do is make sure that you have some sort of treatment for whatever the underlying trauma is. Because we don't want to take away essentially like your whoopee or your invisibility cloak or what you call is like your safety armor. Like we don't want to just take that away from you for the point of being like, okay, those clothes are too big. It's like, yeah, but you're wearing too big clothes for a reason. So we want to
Right.
validate that and acknowledge that and kind of make sure that's well addressed before we get to the next stage of like, hey, let's try and work on convincing your brain that it's totally safe.
Hmm.
Like, if you wear a shirt that actually fits you, nothing is going to occur. It's just a shirt that fits you. But if someone has a past history of trauma, you just want to be really sensitive to that before we start taking away clothes that are too big. Now, I have some clients who, I had one client who loved black cardigans and we called them like the black cardigan whoobies and they were just like there were a ton of them. I think there were like 20 or something when we counted. It was
Oh
just
my
kind of intense.
goodness.
And she just
Wow.
kept buying them. Like she forgot how many she had. She kept buying them. She would just like wrap herself in these things. And she didn't have a
Oh,
history of trauma. She just kind of had some body image issues that she hadn't exactly worked through. So for that
hmm.
kind of client, it was like, okay, let's pare it down. Like, what are your
Yeah.
actual favorites? What are the ones you actually wear? So, for all of my mamas out there, or my ladies out there, my people out there who wear cardigans as invisibility cloaks or wear hoodies as invisibility cloaks, I want you to really just, we're not ready to pry them all away. I'm not even going to do that to you. I really
Hmm.
just want you to consider what are the ones you're actually wearing and what is just like sort of the just in case your favorite whoopee isn't clean and you act like you have to wear the ugly one you don't even like let's get rid of those. Like the ones you're
Hmm.
not actually wearing, let's start to whittle down the amount of like whoobies we have in the closet And then really start to just ask yourself before you head out of the house and you're like, where's my cardigan? Where's my hoodie? Where's my drapey scarf blanket thing that I put on
Mm-hmm.
myself? Like, do I really need it?
That's a good question.
And just like gently, 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 gently start to like remind your brain, like, how about we just go to Target this once without the hoodie and we'll just see what happens?
Right. Mm-hmm.
Like, what if we just go to run that quick errand and we don't bring our cardigan with us?
Mm-hmm. Yeah. What's
Like,
gonna happen?
what's gonna like just start to like acclimatize your brain that for the most part, no one's gonna notice, nothing is going to occur. Now,
Mm-hmm.
catcalling and craziness happens in the world because we're interacting with other humans, but for the most part, like, it's totally gonna be okay.
Yeah,
Like, but
absolutely.
for some of us, like, we have to gently, we're not going to pry them out of your hands if you're not ready yet, but just start to consider on small occasions, like, do I really need this? And for those of you who are ready, here's what I would say to you all. It's something I tell my clients who are in the position where they're like, I'm ready to get rid of these, is it doesn't actually do what you think it's doing. So I kind of, the analogy I use is clown shoes. So if a clown wears shoes that are 10 times too big, it doesn't mask his feet. It actually just draws attention to his feet.
Hmm.
So if we're
Yeah.
wearing cardigans, pants, t-shirts, whatever, fill in the blank clothing item that we think is like an invisibility cloak, it's actually doing the opposite of what you want. It's actually drawing attention to that part of body by making it appear larger because
Mm-hmm.
you're wearing clothes that are too big. So it's actually an ineffective like tool for protecting yourself. Like, you have the means available to you to do that, and it doesn't have to require you wearing clothes that are, 3 sizes, 4 sizes, 5 sizes too big.
Yeah,
So
I
I
love
also want to
that.
offer that as another way of thinking about this.
Yeah. Sorry, there's like a plane going overhead. I don't know if you can hear that.
I can't. You're
But
totally fine.
okay, yeah. No, I completely agree with all that. And I love what you said in the beginning about people, there's usually history of trauma or there's something else going on, and you can't just pry it away immediately. That's just being like take it off and then throwing them into the water without like knowing how to swim, it's just too extreme. But sometimes I find it helpful to like you said, go over the reasons why. Because people when you try to just strip something away from someone and call them crazy for wanting to keep it, really doesn't, like, it makes you feel horrible. And there is a reason why you're doing these things, that you're not just wearing that for no apparent reason whatsoever. So I love that you said that, and actually going through it and talking about it. And then another thing is kind of like questioning your brain when you are ready to kind of take it off or go to the next stage, questioning it. And even if you wear it out still, like just noticing when you're doing it when you don't necessarily need to can be a good baby step in the right direction.
Yeah,
And then
exactly. I love that.
yeah.
I'd like take it with you and then decide if you want to put it on, totally okay. But let's start the outing out without it on. We can bring it with us just in cases. And then sometimes you might forget it. Sometimes you decide to put it on 5 minutes and totally okay.
Yeah, absolutely. And another good thing to tack on to what you're saying too is what I found effective for the clients I have struggling with that is really going over what their brain is going to say to them when they are wearing clothes that aren't the whoobies or whatever you're calling them, like then they can at least mentally prepare for it and be like, oh, this is just what my brain is telling me. It's not actually true. And then what you said about the fact that it's not doing what you think it's doing, that just was like icing on the cake. Because you're right, it really does draw more attention, and that's the exact opposite of what they want.
Yeah, for most, particularly women who've suffered any kind of abuse and are now wearing, giant size clothing, like it's not actual armor, my love. Like, I know you think it is. It's just really not.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's a hard thing, but the sooner you can realize it, then you can move on to something way better.
Yeah, and more effective. Yeah, absolutely.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So I know that, like, let me check the time so I don't want to run over or anything. Um, can I ask, massively switching gears again, but how did you, I know it, I've heard you talk about it, but I really want like the audience to know about it. How did you go from law to becoming a style coach?
Oh, okay. Yeah. Damn, girl, it's been a
Completely
journey.
switching gears.
It's been
Yeah.
a journey. No, I love it. I think this question is so fun because I love that people are like delighted by the story, which is like, so fun for me to tell it.
Mm-hmm.
So, yeah, in short, I wanted to be a fashion designer growing up, and then I went to undergrad originally to be a fashion designer, and then I got really weird feedback from a professor that I was technically perfect but boring, and that was very devastating to me.
Awful.
Yeah, and I know that you're into art and you're creative too, so can you imagine
Mm-hmm.
like your young self being told that? It was, yeah, I was not ready to receive
Yeah.
that information.
I have
Um,
my the first day of art class, one of my teachers took my drawing down and said, "This is precious," and then told the whole class nothing is precious because he was trying to encourage us that like none of our art mattered because we were being designers, so we need to just get used to drawing. But I was like crushed. It like stole my soul away of the art, you know? So like I can relate to your experience on some level for sure.
yeah, you have that like sudden like melting feeling in your face and you just want to be a puddle on the floor, like that
Yeah.
Amelie, that scene in Amelie where she's a puddle of water, like that sensation, in case anyone's wondering what that felt
Yeah.
like.
It's awful. It's really awful.
It's super awful. And at that point, I was so worried about this that I was just like, okay, maybe I should do something else. And, with the encouragement of my family, who was like, you're really smart. You should be a lawyer. You'd be good at that. And I was like, okay, sure. I'll go do that. That's
Just go
easier.
on.
That's
Hmm.
easier, which is, again, so funny. And if any of you creatives out there are like, I want something more stable or more whatever, do you, boo? Just stay with your art, stick with it, stick with it. Even if you get a more quote unquote stable job, like whatever that means, um, really just stick with your art in some form or fashion. Like keep doodling, keep drawing, keep designing, just keep at it. I wish I had told my younger self that. So I'm telling all of you from just such a place of love. Um, and then I became a lawyer. I moved all the way up through being a lawyer. So I reached partner status at my law firm. um, I took specialized, like, special things that you can do as an attorney when you pass the bars. You can specialize. So I specialized. I mean, as far up as you can go, I did all the things.
Mm.
And then I found life coaching and I prayed, like, okay, help me, God, to find a way where I can like match all the things that I love all in one place. Where like I'm helping women, I'm working on style, and we're talking about people's thoughts and goals and dreams. Like whatever that job is, like that's the job I want to do. And I worked with coaches who were like, "Oh yeah, that's a thing. You could just make it up. You can make up a thing and then go do that." And I was like, "Wait, what is happening?" Like you can make up a job and that's your job. And that's what I've done. So I've created a whole niche where I get to do just that. I get to talk to smart, amazing women who are incredible, who are fluffy, curvy, if they, whatever they couch themselves as. And we get to talk about style, we get to talk about thoughts, we get to talk about money and career advancement and all the things. And I seriously, I have the best job ever in the
Mm.
world.
Yeah. That's a good feeling to have. You don't, I felt the same way about coaching too. It's like, I really have the best job ever. This is what I'm made to do for sure.
Yeah. Yeah. And then you
Mhm.
like find your people and then you get to love on them because you understand them. And it's just, I feel like it doesn't get any better than that. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, and you are so closely connected to your clients, it seems. Like you really know what they're going through. You had to go through your own journey and now you get to pass that on to someone else. It's the best feeling ever.
Yeah. I think about them all the time. And even when I learn new things, and you probably experience this as well, right? You learn something new, you're studying it, and you're like, oh, here's how I'm going to show my people this new thing
Yeah.
I've learned, right? Like you get all
Hmm.
excited. So, yeah, that's the joy of it. Is like I learn more as I grow more than I can take it back to the women I serve and help them through whatever level they're at in the same thing. So it's really good. Really, really good.
Yeah. Yeah. And how crazy that you thought like law would be easier. I can't imagine. Like just being like, okay, I was in art school, but I was kind of like, I don't know. I still went through, but like a year in, I knew that the degree I was getting into art was not for me, but I just stuck with it It's like, I don't know what to do. I'm just going to keep on going. It worked out, but I can't imagine being like, I'll just go do law as my alternative, my backup plan. How confident?
I don't know that it was confidence. I think at the time I probably would have been like, "Oh, it's confident. I'm confident about this decision." I had professors who were dismayed, and I always kind of forget them. But the older I get, the more I remember. Like I had two professors, and I will name them because they were lovely, amazing women. Dr. Burchell and Dr. Rockefeller. Not doctor. She's just a professor. Professor Rockefeller. Um, both of them were like, "What are you doing? This is a terrible idea. You should be a fashion designer. What is going on? What is happening?" And I remember Dr. Burchell like was almost tearful, and she's like, "The world needs artists. The world needs artists." And she
Hmm.
was so upset that I had made this decision. And she was my French professor. Even it wasn't even like she was in the fashion design department, but she was
Interesting.
so like heartbroken for me, and I don't think I fully understood what she was trying to convey until now. I look back on it in hindsight, and I'm like, what a powerful thing to like have tried to convey to me. Of course, my 22-year-old brain was like, I made a decision, blah blah blah.
I
But
know. You
yeah,
can't, like, when situations like that happen, you can't necessarily tell them everything that they don't know, right? You can just tell them in your
exactly.
own words. And unfortunately, people sometimes have to experience things for themselves. And you, even though it like you, I don't think you look back, I don't know, I guess what you think, but I'm assuming you don't look back on it with regret because it
No,
really
no.
was the path that you needed to take to learn what she was trying to tell you. But it just sucks that sometimes when you watch people, it's like, if I could just save you a few years, but like they need to take that journey and they're
Yeah.
going to, whether no matter how much you cry to them not to.
100%. It was always supposed to be my journey. And here's the thing, I was an incredible attorney. I was very good at what I did because I had a creative background. So I was able to calm down a lot of times and be like, how can we problem solve this? Because everyone's arguing about the same freaking thing, and I think y'all are on the same page and you don't even realize it. Like, so a lot of
Mm.
times I was able to come in and be more creative and do wacky things that people were like, "You can't do that." I'm like, "Watch me. We just make stuff up. We could do it." So, like,
Hmm.
thank God I had a background of creativity before I became a lawyer because I was a really good lawyer. And then thank God I was a lawyer because I helped a lot of people in a way that I wouldn't have otherwise been able to. And then there was a certain point in time where I realized I could affect more change on a bigger scale as
Hmm.
a coach than I could as an attorney. And that was the turning point for me. But I don't regret any of it. Yeah.
Yeah, that's a good point too. A lot of people think that lawyers, the only way to do that is to be highly logical and think in a systematic way. And clearly, I think you're probably able to do both, but creativeness can offer very unique solutions, right? And the way to think differently outside the box. That's why like companies sometimes will bring in new people, like new engineers to solve problems instead of the people that have been there the whole time. You kind of came in with this different mindset of everyone else, which I'm sure was such a huge advantage, as you're saying.
Yeah. Yeah. And it's like, I remember like some of my opposing counsels, they'd be like, that is so weird. I'm like, yeah, I know, but it might work. So just bear with me. Like it's a
Mm-hmm.
totally weird thing to tell the judge, but I think he might like it or she might like it. And oftentimes we'd go in and it's like, okay, counsel, you talk because I don't even know what you're saying. And I'd be like, Your Honor, here's the plan. Blah, 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 blah. And then she'd be like, I like it. Go do that. And then come back. I'm like, all right, we're gonna go do that. Like, so you can be, even if you have a more quote unquote logical field that you're operating in, for any of you listening, really, like, there's room for creativity. Like, it can be fun. You can let it be fun. Let it be fun. Yeah.
Yeah, that's your quote. You can let it be fun. Yeah. I even say that about like different subjects entirely, of course, but with eating disorder recovery, obviously there are like really big dramatic things in there and it's an emotional event journey, but there can also be really fun parts about it. So like anything, there's a lot of ways you can let it be fun, but you have to actually allow it. If you don't allow for it, none of it's ever going to come.
Yeah, absolutely. And that doesn't take away from the hard parts or the parts where maybe you do have some regret or you wish you had done things differently. Like, that doesn't detract from any of those feelings. You're allowed to have all of those feelings. And then you're also allowed to creatively decide to do something different all at the same time. The human experience. So good.
Yes. Yeah, absolutely. Well, okay. I feel like I've picked your brain a lot. So I appreciate you just answering rapid fire questions and just getting on here. It's been really nice having you on. Can I ask what's the best way for people to find you?
Yeah, so the best way to find me is you could just start with the Style Masterclass podcast. It is a podcast that is like they're 8-minute episodes, 8 to 12 minutes, so you can listen to a ton of them all at once and then go take action. I give you what I call a glam gal mission at the end of each episode, so that's the best way to like sort of enter into my world is start with the Style Masterclass podcast.
Yeah, they're really digestible for sure. I've noticed that. I'm like, oh, just go. I've already finished this one. I can go to the next one. And they're really like practical as well, very direct and to the point, which is nice.
That's what I love in a podcast. I'm like, okay, this is what I'm going to set out to create. So far
Mhm.
it's been good.
Yeah, I can go either way. It depends on if I'm like needing tips right here and there, and I find a podcast that's like, actually always, I don't like the podcasts they have the title as this, and then they have a 40-minute conversation before they get to the actual topic. I'm like, tell me what I need to know. I don't care about unless I actually know the people, then I'm like, I don't care.
Yeah, no,
So,
and I
but
think we did that successfully here. Like we jumped in and like full of golden nuggets for anybody. So I think
mhm.
we did our jobs well here. Like
And now we're
that's
having more of a casual conversation.
yeah,
But
yeah.
but yeah, absolutely. We gave you the goods first and now we're here. But anyway, yeah. So her podcast is great. Can recommend for sure. And where else can they find you?
Yeah, you can go to my website, judithgaton.com, and just play around with any of the buttons there. There's podcasts, things you can listen to, and there's a really quick, like 8-minute little video course about bullshit fashion rules and how to overcome them. So that's another place you could head out. So that's Judith Gaton, JUDITHGATON.com.
Nice. When you said playing around with the buttons, I just imagine someone being like, click here, like not even looking at the words, just clicking randomly, being like, whoa, where are we going? Yeah. Be funny. But yeah, absolutely go check her out. Her Instagram is great too. And her website is very easy to navigate, I must say, as well, for anyone that has like complicated websites out there. So thank you so much for being on this show, Judith. I almost like said
This was a great
Gaton.
conversation. Yeah.
Yeah. No, yeah, I enjoyed it too. And I think a lot of people will take something from it.
Good. I hope so. Thank you so much.
Hey, if you like this episode, you have to come check out the Binge Breakers Recovery course. If you're trying to recover from bulimia and you're sick of doing it alone and you feel like you've tried a lot of traditional therapies and it's not working with you, come join the course. Go to bingebreakers.com/recovery-course.